Joining me first here at the Eaton Mall is the Chief Executive of the National Australia Bank, Andrew Thorbun. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
You're not Greek?
No, I'm not Greek. I've got a bit of Italian heritage, but anyway, proud to be Australian.
It's an interesting place out here, isn't it? It really is vibrant, I think.
Well, I think it's such a cool idea, Neil, to get out here and look at the people around, and you're really out in the community, aren't you? And it's one of the things that I love doing, getting out to our branches and business centres, particularly out of the CBD, and it is a different feel. So well done for getting on the road.
I'll be surprised if there's not a National Australia Bank here somewhere.
There is one just around the corner, which I'm going to pop into. But
you've got to go and knock on the door.
Yeah, go and knock on the door. Absolutely. Say hello.
Jeez, I love that. The Chief Executive's just dropped in. Oh well, get ready. Now, some of the serious news. First, the Big Four, including your bank, is being used to launder money, according to a report from the Crime Commission today, as much as $5 million a day. Does that surprise you?
Well, look, this is an area that we, our bank and all banks, are becoming more and more vigilant about. And we have increasingly sophisticated systems to track and then report suspicious transactions. And we work with the authorities, not just AUSTRAC, but the police and the banks work together. So this is an area that we're really putting more and more emphasis on so that we can protect the bank and the broader community.
What can you do? Does there need to be a new level of enforcement? Do we need improvement right through the system?
Well, I think everybody's working on this, Neil. The police, the government, crime agencies, AUSTRAC, the banks. So I think we've got all the right focus on it. I think the question of what more can we do is a good question. But I think one of the things that we need to do is keep talking to our people who use common sense to ask the right questions. And when they're seeing things which just don't seem right, they escalate them really quickly. That's one. That's sort of like common sense to supplement the sophistication of systems.
Yeah.
But the second thing is that we need to automate a lot of our processes and technology more and more, because when you have manual processes, paper, that makes it more difficult. So they're the two things I think we can do more around.
The report gives an example of a number of transactions over a short period of time involving several banks, but I think there were 6 deposits in a few hours, up around $9,000-$10,000 by the same person through the NAB. Does that ring an electronic alarm bell somewhere? How do you get onto that?
So, well, this is the area where my other 2 points we need to use, because we need to report cash deposits above $10,000. We need to report all those, and we do. And we monitor a whole lot of other transactions that may have suspicious tendencies, and so we just need to keep broadening the net. But if we get our people looking at that and saying that doesn't quite make sense, same customer under the $10,000 limit, let's escalate that. I think that's the sort of thing we need to do more of. But the overall system, just the broader picture, Neil, I mean the overall banking system, despite this, because there's always been, as long as banking's been around, underworld tendencies.
Yeah.
That you've just got to have really sophisticated systems, really good people, and the system as a whole is very strong and very robust.
But the underworld, if you like, or organised crime, and in fact terrorists, have become more sophisticated, haven't they?
Absolutely right. And as sophisticated as they are, we need to be one step ahead and one even more sophisticated. And that's why things like you hear about cybercrime, our executive, our board are constantly getting updates from our cybercrime professionals about what they're doing and working with government authorities at the same time. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Who's winning?
To protect us. Well, the good guys always win in the end, don't they?
In the end, yeah, but where are we now?
Yeah, well, I think and even you read here this morning of North Korea, you look at cybercrime, terrorism, and those sort of forces are rising, and I think corporates, banks, governments just need to keep absolutely vigilant about protecting our customers, protecting their money, and making sure they can have trust and confidence in the bank, which I think they can, absolutely.
You mentioned North Korea. What will that be doing now to financial markets around the world?
Well, this is very important because Australia is a net importer of capital. We borrow money constantly from overseas and we get it from good long-term sources, but those sources like stability, they like some certainty, and the geopolitical risk and the risk of North Korea, continuing to aggravate will be unsettling markets. So at the moment it's quite calm, but if this continues and escalates, that would be a threat to stability and therefore potentially to imported capital, the cost of it into Australia, and therefore interest rates.
So if I'm driving to work from Oakley today and I hear you talking about that, it potentially touches me in the form of higher interest rates.
Yes, and what we need in the economy also is confidence. Businesses willing to invest, to use their cash and borrow from banks to, buy plant and equipment or expand. And when that happens, businesses stop doing that as well. So not just higher interest rates potentially, but less confidence in the economy and less growth, therefore less jobs.
Oh, okay. So it's near. All right. You've done some work with the Centre for Social Impact on financial stress in Australia. This is following one last year. It shows, some staggering figures. 2.4 million Australian adults are financially vulnerable. Less than half have got the equivalent of 3 months' income or more saved. This says people are pretty shaky, doesn't it? Out in the real world, life's a bit tough.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And one of the things that we've done in working with the Centre for Social Impact is to try to understand this. Let's get some statistics and let's really understand what the numbers are telling us. And we've done that also in association with Good Shepherd Microfinance, which are a wonderful organisation, which really help low-income and vulnerable people. And these numbers that you've quoted do indicate that there are many people out there, Neil, under real pressure, where they don't have enough savings, that they can't go past the next 2 pays and they run out of cash, or that 1 in 5 couldn't raise $2,000 within a week if they really needed to. And if they did need to, 70% would go to family members. So I think there are some things here that we should be thinking about and talking about. And the role of a bank, of course, is, we're there for the good times, so when people buy their first home or they start a business or expand. But our role is also to be there when people are in difficulty, so we can help them.
So what figure jumps out to you in this? When we talk about financial resilience too, what figure jumps out here to you?
Well, the main figure that jumped out to me was that if people get into difficulty, 25% feel they have no access to credit. 25%, 1 in 4, wouldn't know what to do. Now, what that means is they're either remaining in a very vulnerable position, or they go to payday lenders.
Yeah.
And that's where our work with Good Shepherd Microfinance comes in. This partnership for 15 years, basically they help vulnerable, low-income people in situations like this. And in my first couple of weeks in this job, I went out to the Good Money store in Collingwood, which is one of the first Good Shepherd Microfinance stores. And I met a woman called Barbara, who just didn't have enough money, to buy a washing machine. So it's things like washing machine, cars, things like that. So that they just don't have the basics. And so that's what they're doing to help them.
Are they going backwards? I know it's the figure 645,000 fewer Australians are financially secure than the year before.
Yeah.
We are going back. We're getting worse.
Well, that number shows we're going backwards. The broader picture is the economy has kept growing and unemployment is quite low.
Yeah, but wages haven't. We're predicting 1.7% the next year.
Which is sort of barely inflation, and real wages haven't really gone up consistently. So I think this does show that underneath it there are some people really struggling.
If you put it all together, we are doing well, the economy's doing well, and we say, the country's doing well, but it's on the back of some people who are suffering a fair bit.
Well, I think it's absolutely right to say, whilst it's going, the big picture is reasonably positive, notwithstanding those other downsides we started with, that there are some people in our society that are really struggling, that are feeling vulnerable, or that if they did get into a little bit of stress, would have to resort to, means they don't have family members or payday lenders to actually help them.
So where's all the benefit going? It's creating jobs, it's creating jobs, and it's making a few people rich, and some businesses are doing well, and that's fine. We want businesses to do well. But is it not possible that it can, not be shared, but it can spread into the broader community?
And that's where I think helping people with education, apprenticeships, small businesses are crucial. Small businesses in Australia generate 60% of our economic activity.
Yeah.
So it's small businesses that are the key. And with the ability to create an online business today and grow an online business, and that's where a bank like NAB comes in, as we do what we call quick biz quick business loans to businesses that we think really perhaps don't have the security or the long run record, but really have got a really good proposition. We're supporting them. And with the likes of Good Shepherd Microfinance, I think we really have a great story that when people get into difficulty, they can go there and get a no interest loan.
Is it fair to say that cost of living, do you think, is the main issue in the country at the moment for the average person?
Well, I think the main issue is people need to know that they've got job security and prospects for work. That gives them confidence. But I think the cost of living is one of the real pressures if you think of energy prices in particular. But I think, and wages aren't going up. So it is continuing to get squeezed. So again, this is where the bank comes in, because what we want to do is talk to people. People come into the Oakley branch and just sit down with our bankers, because our job is to help people through difficult situations, start to get a savings plan, or at least reassure them that we're there. One of the other things that we have, Neil, and maybe listeners might benefit from this, is we have a line called NAB Assist. These are people who are dedicated to helping our customers who are in some stress.
Yeah.
So 8 to 8 Monday to Friday, 9 to 1 on a Saturday. The number's 1300 135 323. We are dealing with up to 2 million calls or emails or letters a year for people that are in some difficulty. But the good news is these people we've got here are top notch, and 97% of people who call looking for help within 90 days are up to date on their financial payments. So we really can help them.
Okay. Do you see any wage improvement in the near future? In real wages, I mean.
Well, I think that's going to be hard to see because businesses are under pressure, margin pressure. Look what's happening in retail. So I think that's really hard to see until there's probably further productivity type reforms and workers are able to produce more with the same input. I think that's going to be hard for businesses, because businesses, like the 60%, look around here. These are businesses that are under pressure themselves.
Yeah.
Just to survive and pay bills and keep growing.
And the other group under pressure, as the figures show, people under 35.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder they look at the baby boomers and say, hey, what have you done to us?
Yeah. Well, I think people over 35, often they'll have had a job for longer term. They may have been able to get into the housing ladder, and therefore, as house prices have gone up in the last 10 years, they've got some equity, and that gives them a buffer. So housing affordability, Neil, is another big issue for Australia today.
We'll just take one call if you don't mind. I know you need to get a knock on that bank door. Steve, go ahead, Steve.
G'day there. I just wanted to chat with the CEO of NAB. I've got 2 credit cards with the NAB, and I'm just struggling a bit because I find the interest rates are quite high. Why aren't they matching? Housing rates have gone down, so why don't credit card rates go down too?
Yep. Hi, Steve. It's Andrew speaking. So we would like to help you. So that number I mentioned before, you could call that, or you can email me, andrew.thorbun@nab.com.au, and I can help you offline. But come to your question, home loan rates are low, and they're lower than credit card rates because essentially they're a lot less risky for the bank, a lot less risky. So credit cards are unsecured, so we give people a limit. It's not secured over anything in particular. But we do have a low rate card, and the lowest rate card is 13.99%, and that's a very competitive rate, whereas home loan rates are 5 or 6% because they're much lower risk. So that's the reason why. So maybe we can help you with doing some consolidation, getting you into a low rate card so you're paying the lowest rate possible, and then help you with a plan to get that repaid as quickly as you can.
Steve, thank you very much for calling. Andrew Thorbun, thank you for dropping in. What's the number again? 1300 135 323. And we'll tell the local branch you're on the way.
I'm on the way.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.
Andrew Thorbun, Chief Executive, National Australia Bank.